Learning a block Gemara. We are up to the Tezvav Aleph at the bottom of the page. We're discussing a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav and Nachman, and that is when you make a neder and you have a tanai. He said, so the argument is, for example, he said, I will not sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. But the Isa is today and the tanai is tomorrow. So according to Rav Nachman, you can sleep today because no Veda yet, and surely you'll be Zoya tomorrow not to breach the Tanai. Because if you will, then retrospectively you committed a Veda. Rabbi Yehuda, however, says that, we're just going to quick summary of what we're up to so far. Rabbi Yehuda, however, says that, Rabbi Yehuda Rav says that no, when it comes to a Tanai, you're not so careful. Today, you're not doing an Avera. Tomorrow, you don't really feel that there's an Avera if you go to sleep because it's not really Avera. It's only a condition, a trigger, like you said, for yesterday. So therefore, you're not allowed to go to sleep at all today because we're worried about tomorrow. But everyone agrees, if today was the condition that tomorrow is the Easter, in other words, you say, tomorrow I will not sleep if I sleep today, everyone says you could go to sleep today because tomorrow is the Easter, you'll be careful, you won't do it. Then you're allowed to. If you don't, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't go to sleep today, then you're allowed to. Remember, the only problem tomorrow if you sleep today. Yeah. Now, why you made this net in the first place, who knows? So, we are up to near the bottom of the page. We're bringing different missions that seem to say that to support Rav Nachman that you are permitted to. Interesting. All the questions of the Gemara are going to be against Rabbi Yehuda. And the Rishonim are going to pass Rabbi Yehuda for that very reason. They'll say, because we kochzer so much in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, even though every proof we bring is to Rav Nachman against Rabbi Yehuda, but because we sit there and we try to, for Rabbi Yehuda to see how it works out, so therefore the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. So next case. But 8 lines at the bottom of the page. Tanan, we learned. Obviously, this person does not get on very well with his in-laws. So he tells his wife as follows. Tanan, he says, Sha'at you're forbidden to have any benefit from me till Pesach. So the Isser is having benefit from me till Pesach, and the trigger is im, and the condition of the Tanai is im. If you go any time from today till Sukkot, 6 months after Pesach, if you go any time today to your parents' house, then you're also to have any benefit from me till Pesach. Now, if she went to her in-laws' house, to her parents' house, before Pesach, which means she breached the Tanai, then obviously she's also to have any hana from her husband because that was Isa. Then also b'hanase ada Pesach. So that's what the Gemara is. That's what the Mishnah says. So the Gemara is namadai. Only if Pesach asura. When do we say she's not allowed to have any hana from her husband? Only if she actually went to her parents' house. If she did not go to her parents' house, then she's allowed to have hana. Once Pesach is over, the Easter is gone, but the trigger is still there. If she goes shvuas to her parents' house, then the mafreya, the retrospectively, she had hana from her husband Purim time, she committed an Easter. But obviously we're not worried. Why? Because she'll be careful. But she won't go to her parents' house. That's what it seems to me. The support of Nachman, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, she's not allowed to have any hana from her husband, even if she did not go, till Pesach, because who knows? Rabbi says, this is Ha'ilim Shach. Of course, she shouldn't have any hana from her husband, even if she did not go to her parents' house, because who knows what will happen after Pesach. We're worried that she won't be careful with it tonight. However, there's a difference between before and after Pesach. Pesach, she went before Pesach, Asura, she's forbidden. If she went before Pesach, then she had enough from her husband, she committed an Isa, she get Malchus. The Loike, if she did not go before Pesach, let's say, she had enough from her husband, and she only went after Pesach, Asura Ba'almo. She went only after Pesach, there's only an Isa over here, but you don't get Malchus. No, it's Bal Yachal Devore, you're only she's even if she went to her father's house before Pesach and she had enough before Pesach.
Why is it
because at the time when she did it, she didn't. The fact that she didn't do the trigger. So at the time she did it, she didn't do the video. It wasn't like Yachal Dvori yet. Only retrospective. So Malchus you don't get. A big machlek is a shaynim. Who actually gets the Malchus in this case? It's a fascinating thing. Think about it. I make a neder that you shouldn't eat from my house, right? You shouldn't eat in my house, and you walk in and you eat. So who did the favor? Big I mean, the pashas you always learn that it's the person, the mother. Big machlek the Ran, the Rambam, another the Rashba. The Ran holds, and all the Shayim here generally hold that that's a keich of an eder. That you have the ability to ask my object on someone else, and therefore if she goes ahead and she has enough from her husband, she is the one who gets malchus. She is the one yachal dvarim. She didn't say anything, but she's the one who was over because the Isa was on her. Mashengi the Rambam holds it's the person who made the neder who gets the malchus, because he's the one who said the words. In other words, the machlekes is what's the Isa lo yachal dvarim for the act that you did, which is against the promise you made, or is exactly the little title lo yachal dvarim, you breached the words. Who did the act? The mudar. Whose words were breached? The madir. And that's machlekes. The Rambam says it's the madir that is, and the Sam Sefer writes in the Shuvas, that this is the same machlekes the Rambam has with everybody else regarding Klein. If I put on Klein on somebody else and he walks with it or she walks with it, sitting with it and having enough, who's over? The one who donned it, the one who the malbish or the mulubish? Exactly machlekes. The Rambam holds the malbish. Who did the Aveda, the Malbish? And the other one says no. It's that the Maisa is the Poyo who's benefiting from this climb. It's the Malbish. Exact same machlekes. Okay. The Maisa happened before. Exactly. So even though you'll get there's no bit. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And even if you hold as the words, not going to your parents' house was not the Yachal Dvorei. It's just a trigger.
So they must be married a long time. Because we had a Gemara, I think it was the place where in the first year of marriage it's expected that you go to the woman's parents.
Right. Yeah.
So these guys must be married for a while already. A friend enough to like thought like this.
Amos safer. Let's continue in the safer. He says after Pesach, she goes to her parents' house after Pesach. But by Yachal Dvorei, she goes to her parents' house after Pesach by Yachal Dvorei. So it comes out that if she whatever she did, if she had enough from her husband before, is Yachal Dvorei. Now the Idol is handily for Pesach, since you have you to hold that she was not allowed to have any hana before Pesach, because we don't know even that we're worried about the time afterwards. Mi'ika bayachel, what Easter was there? She never had enough from her husband because she followed the rules, and the rules would have been she can't have enough. So now if she goes to her parents' Shavuos time, so what? There's no Easter there. The trigger does as long as you didn't have enough before Pesach, it doesn't matter. She could go to her parents. Elab shita is hanik. Must be talking about here if she had enough. No, saying she's allowed to have enough from her husband. We're telling you, by the way, now that you had enough, if you are going to go to your parents' house, even though it's after Pesach, retrospectively, then Aveda. Elab she just honey. Alma is honey. It's a closer ayah to Rav Nachman again that you're allowed to have enough because we're sure that you'll be careful not to be over the trigger either. It's you to the Rabbanu. Again, the same thing. Kiktani, the E is honey. The Mishnah is not saying that you're allowed to have enough from your husband before Pesach prior to Pesach. The saying here is that if you did have enough prior to Pesach, then you should know you'll be over if you go to your parents' house after Pesach. If you did.
It's almost like
she didn't know if she did, but now we're warning you again. In other words, if you would ask the Rav, or her, of course you tell her not to, but she did. Forgot herself. She did. They live in the same house, it's not so easy. Anyway. I know means usually I know it's tashmish. Then we're right, and then the Shemir talk about how can you ask the tashmish is one of the three things that you're mechuyev. So they say either he cannot say that I want to have a tashmish with you can't go against it, but if he says to her that I'm asking your tashmish to me, then he could. You can make a neder on the chayfetz. You have a chiv to go ahead, but I made a neder on the chayfetz. Now you can't give a person my cholodis, so you can't do it. And she can do the same thing to him. Says the Gemara, now we look in the Mishnah like this, the other way around. Now he says that This is now the Easter. He says you shouldn't have any hana from me until Sukkot. If you go to your parents till Pesach. You know, I guess Purim coming up, I don't want you to go to your parents. So he said, if you go to your parents' house till Pesach, that's a trigger, then you're also till Sukkot. If she went before Pesach, then she went ahead before Pesach, she breached it tonight, then they're also until Sukkot. But once Pesach goes by, after Pesach goes by, there's nothing wrong with going because there's no trigger anymore, because the trigger ended Pesach. It seems from here, it says here, if she went before Pesach, then it's awesome. But if she didn't go before Pesach, she's allowed to have a no from her husband. What do you mean allowed to have a husband? Maybe she'll be over the trigger. It sounds like allowed to even before Pesach. She's allowed to have a no before Pesach. But if she went to her parents' house, she didn't have a Veda. She didn't go to parents' house, no problem. That means, but she's allowed to have a no from her husband because she'll be careful. Again, a kasha of Yehuda said you're not allowed to. Amarava, no, you be medayik too much. Who didn't do loyal asura also? Holcha asura, like if she went, she gets malchus. La holcha asura balma. It's only Isser. No, if you don't hold, you're not allowed to have any hana because we're worried. So it's only an Isser that Rabbanan. But if she went, then an Isser that I see get malchus. Basically, that's another question. It says the Baraisa, kikir zu Allah hayom. This bread is also to me today. So the Isser is the loaf of bread. If I go tomorrow to somewhere else, so the trigger is going tomorrow. The Isser is the bread today. Ochal, if he ate the bread today, he has to make sure you don't go tomorrow. Trigger is the bread, right? Today, that's the trigger. Sorry. The Isser is the bread of today. The trigger is if she goes tomorrow. So it says if you ate the bread today, you got to make sure that you don't do the trigger tomorrow because I'm afraid you'll be even aved. Yeah. So the see again. She did not eat the bread today. Yeah. Sorry, it says here, sorry, go around. It sounds like he's allowed to eat the bread today, but we're telling you, by the way, now that you ate the bread, be careful tomorrow. Again, the right of Nachman. The Buddha says, no. It doesn't say that you're allowed to eat the bread today. No. If you ask the Rav, we'll tell you in the face not to, because we're worried that you're not going to be careful to trigger tomorrow. It says, if you happen to eat, if you ate, then you will be a bal yelech if you go tomorrow. It says here also, and if he went tomorrow, then he's over for eating today by Yachid Bore. Mahalach Loi, it doesn't say, according to you, Rabbi Yehuda, you could say Lechatchila he could walk tomorrow because surely you wouldn't have eaten today because you would have told him you're not allowed to eat today. If you're not because we're worried that you won't care for. So therefore, if it's already the next day, surely you didn't eat yesterday because you were not allowed to. So you're allowed to walk. Why say halach if you walk tomorrow? You're not over. Say halach, you can walk. The kasha Yehuda, I'm like Yehuda. Who didn't list him halach? You might could have said halach. Allowed to walk. Surely you wouldn't have eaten today. But I did tell you the language of the Reisha is if you happen to eat, you can't say that oichel eat because you're talking allowed to lechatchila, so they say for halach, he's the same kind of a lush. Exactly. Elisha guy says to his wife, he makes it easy so that he can't have any tasha with her. And if he has her by how can he say that but he says, Hanoah's tashmishach Allah. He says clearly that the Hanoah of your tashmish is also to me. And that he can't, in other words, even though I have a chiyuv to have tashmish, but if I ask the chayfetz, which is her, and you cannot be Michael, a person of double Yisuf. He can and therefore he can ask her. He said, "I don't want this tashmish." You can ask her. If he says tashmish, if she says that I'm asking myself having tashmish with you, you can't ask yourself to your husband. It's one of the chiyuvim between a husband and a wife. But if he says Hanoah's tashmish for life, she says, "Look, I'm asking having pleasure." From the tashmish, that you can ask. There's no mitzvah to have pleasure, that you can ask. Also, I mitzvah lav lahan season. We learn later, and we had Rosh Hashanah already. that when we say mitzvah lav lahanas, the mitzvah itself is what gives you enjoyment. Lav lahanas, by mitzvah the same thing applies. But here, if you're doing a mitzvah and together with mitzvah you have also hano, which is not the mitzvah, it's then you're allowed to. For example, if you make hanoidim in hama'ayid, I'm not going to go to spring water. So in the winter you're allowed to go make it to the spring water. But in the summer you're not allowed to because you're having hano that keeps cooling down. So even though mitzvah lav lahanas into, but that's a hano that comes with it. Mishnah.
Can I ask you, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, a couple of days ago, you touched on the meaning of this thing of a person's mush to the owners, the Hasidim.
Yeah, last week ago.
What was the where was the Shavua that they made?
First of all, we learned Gemara in a few days from now. We learned Gemara about a Shavua, Gemara after the lesson, but we had a machlek Arvis Moyev. Rashi had a chumash last week, the Elam, it's called Elam Mamre. Rashi says there because Elam we made a Shavua for Hayrah. In other words, reason Harevel, Abraham Avinu saw where Hagrim Harevel would be. That's in the Shuvah. Others say Nasa V'Nishma, and so on. It says the Mishnah, Shvua She'eini Yashon. A guy makes a Shvua that I will not. This is now a Shvua. Not talking about Nedarim. So I won't go to sleep. A Shvua is Chal Al Even Dover She'ein by Mamish because it's on me. Shvua She'eini Medaber. I won't speak. She'eini Mahalacham Walk. Us. All of these cases, it is us. If he says korban lo oichalach, is not a problem because either you attach his words, I swear in the life of a korban that I won't eat by you. It's not the way you make a shvua. By a neder, you can say I swear in the life of an animal, but by shvua use the Abish's name. You don't swear in the life of a korban, so therefore it's nothing. If he says, or he's saying here that what I eat by you, Carbon loyachlach. What I don't eat by you is a carbon, which means, but what I will eat by you is chayil. So what's the problem? No. He's saying to this person, whatever I don't eat by you is that's what I other things. Regarding your things, what I don't eat by you, means nothing. That's case number one. I made it home by Shvur. If he says ha carbon sha'ichalach, is also permitted. Why? Because he's saying hakar means I'm swearing in the life of a carbon. I believe in you. What kind of shvur is that? It's not the way you make the shvur. And then the last case is loy carbon, loy oichalach. And we already had before about loy carbon, loy oichalach. We'll talk about Rameh, the last mission in the previous page. Loy carbon, it's not a carbon. Loy oichalach, I don't eat by you. That means what I will eat by you is a carbon. Mutter is mutter, and is mutter. Okay, says the Gemara. Why is it mutter? I'm saying it's not a carbon. So what I will eat by you is a carbon. We don't say meklal lav atashmei hein according to Rameh, and this mission will be Rameh. We'll see in a minute. So we're ready. We'll talk about it. So says the Gemara. Mani Masnisi. Who is the author? Who's the author of Mishnah? Rameh. This is Rameh. The author is Rameh. The Ira Yehuda like shani like carbon like shani like ha carbon. If it's Yehuda, here we see clearly if you say carbon loy oichalach, right? Then it's not a shur. But if he would have said carbon oichalach, if he would have said carbon that I eat by you, then it would be a shur, right? I'm saying whatever is by you is a carbon. But I didn't say like a carbon. Rabbi Yehuda holds the only time it's a shur is if it's add a chaf. Kick carbon. Here it says carbon loy oichalach. If I would have said carbon oichalach, it would not be a shur. So the author of Mishnah must be the mayor who holds you don't need the chaf. Okay. So the Gemara it makes no difference. Carbon, ha carbon, it's all the same. Even if you say carbon she'oichalach, it doesn't matter, right? Because the next case in Mishnah is ha carbon she'oichalach. According to Rabbi Yehuda, even if you said carbon she'oichalach, it wouldn't be anything. Not the problem is you swearing the life of a carbon because this is a kaf. Must be the mayor. You aim a safer. Look at the safer. It says lik carbon loy oichalach. Or we're typing right now lak carbon loy oichalach or loy carbon loy oichalach. It's not a carbon what I don't eat by you. Mutter, right? Which means what I will eat by you is a carbon. That is mutter. And sorry, it's not a carbon. What I want to eat by you, so eat by you is mutter. But now, right? Why? Because we don't see meklal lavas mehem. But my question is, but now we learned lik carbon loy oichalach. I said, and we wondered why. Why if we say like carbon loy oichalach? I said carbon loy carbon. Hey, we broke it up into two parts. Lit carbon, we're saying it should be a carbon. Therefore, I won't eat by you. We imagine as if he said lit carbon, what's going on? And yet this mission right here, lit carbon, how can I do? It's not a kash. If you say the word lit carbon to a carbon, and then you say I won't eat by you, so we're going to tight your verter. Now, what do you mean? It doesn't make sense otherwise. Whatever that means, it's the to a carbon, and therefore we add the preposition. Therefore, we're not going to eat by you. He said loy carbon. Others say la carbon. It's not a carbon. I'm saying clearly it's not a carbon, and therefore, and it's not a carbon, and that's why it is mutter. It's not a carbon. I don't eat by you. It is a carbon. Therefore, I'm saying it's not a carbon. Even if he touches about it's not a carbon. Therefore, I won't eat by you. It doesn't make sense. And if you say that, there's no shvur at all. We'll see tomorrow's Mishnah that even a mayor holds that you don't say meklal lava the shmeihem, but when it comes to a shvur, it's different than a neder. Why should a shvur be different than a neder? Because most of the say because a shvur is more chamer than a neder, and therefore considering the name. So therefore, when we say that even if you say even a male will be moide meklal lava after shmeihem, you have to treat it like a shvur. But the Ran says here we had it before as well. The Ran says no. The Ran says, based on Marshuas, the Ran says that when does a mayor say you don't say Meklal Lav Atash Mehein by tonight God B'nei Reuben, which is Divni Mamas. By Divni Mamas, we don't say Meklal Lav Atash Mehein. Or the Gemara teases out Iser Sheyesh by Mammon. We don't say Meklal Lav. If there's any money involved, it's similar to B'nei God B'nei Reuben because they're going to get their property, their land. Therefore, you have to follow the rules there. That you don't say Meklal Lav. But when it comes to Dine, to Isur, which is totally dissimilar to Tanai B'nei Gad B'nei Reuben, there we do say Meklal Lav. A neder is a Isur sheyesh by moment. Why? Because a neder is you take a piece of bread and you say this bread should be us. Neder can only be challah. There's something tangible there. So therefore, that's a Isur sheyesh by moment. Masha ein kain. When it comes to a shvuah, it's a chayfetz. But shvuah is even something which is not tangible. It's on me. So there's no money involved. The shvuah is purely Issa. You have to abide by your shvuah. By shvuah, the mayor agrees, we'll say Meklal Lavat Shmeihein and so on. Okay, continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Have a good day, everybody.
Okay, thank you.